Hey guys, welcome back again to my YouTube channel. Now today's video is on how to draft a full scale basic bodice pattern, and you can use this pattern for your bustiers, your armor princess dart, and also corsets. So if you're seeing this channel for the first time, my name is Eunice, and on this channel I post DIYs, pattern drafting, and sewing tutorials. Now if you're yet to subscribe to this channel, please do so, and kindly turn on the notification bell to be notified when there is a new video. So now let's get on to the tutorial. So I have my pattern paper here, and the first thing I went ahead to do was to draw a straight line, which is going to serve as my shoulder line. So the next thing I'm going to do is impute all of the lines for my measurements. Now if you don't know how to take your body measurements, I have a video on my channel and I'll drop the link on the description box below. So then I marked my shoulder to nipple of 10 inches, my shoulder to underbust of 13 inches. So I'm going to take the lines all through to the end of the pattern. And then my half length is 19 inches. Then for the full length, I'll be making use of 24 inches. It's supposed to be 25, but what I have here is 24. So when cutting on my fabric, I'll just keep that in mind and then add my 1 inch, my extra 1 inch. So after taking out the horizontal lines, I'll take half of my shoulder measurements, which is 7.5, and then from that point I'll be coming down by 1 inch for my shoulder slants. Then I'll go ahead to mark my neck width. I'll be using 3 inches for the neck width, which is like the standard neck width measurement. Then I'll connect from that 3 inches to meet with my shoulder slant of 1 inch. So at this point I'll be taking my arm sike. Now to get your arm sike, you'll be dividing your bust measurement into 6 and then you add 1.5 inch. So you go ahead to use your calculator. So my bust measurement is 38 inches. I divided it by 6 and then I added what I got plus 1.5 inch, which gives me 7.8. So from my shoulder slants, I will take 7.8, which is now my arm sike length, and then I'll connect the points together. Then after connecting that line, I'll go ahead to mark half of my shoulder, which I did at the shoulder line at that arm sike line so as to get a straight line. So I'll take that 7.5 inch and then I'll connect it vertically to the shoulder slants, just as you see me doing like so. So now after you've done that, you divide what you have at that arm sike length into 2. So that's 7.8. I'll divide it into 2 and I'll mark a point there. And then at that point, I'll be coming in by half an inch from that point I marked. So after marking that point there, I'll take quarter of my bust measurement on that chest line area, which is on my arm sike. So quarter of my bust is 9.5. So I'll mark a point there. So the next thing, I'll be using my arm curve ruler to connect the 3 points together as shown. So after you're done curving the arm sike line, the next thing you're going to do is divide the nipple to nipple measurement into 2. So the nipple to nipple is 7.5 here, and I'll divide it into 2. Then I'll mark that point from my bust line to my full length, which means that I'll take that half of my nipple to nipple measurement from my bust line to my underbust to my half length and then to my full length. Then I'll connect all of the points together to form a straight line. So after I'm done connecting the lines, I'll go ahead to take out my dart. But first of all, I'll be labeling all the lines so you not get confused. So I've gone ahead to label the lines: my shoulder line, my chest line, my bust point line, my underbust, my half length, and my full length. So now you'll be able to get where I am pointing and be able to understand it very well. So I'll go over to the underbust and I'll take half inch on both sides of that bust point line, and I'll do the same thing for the full length. So I'll be connecting those 2 points together as you see me doing like this. So the next, I'll connect each of the dart's leg to my nipple point, which is my bust point, in a slanted line. So after doing that, you're going to determine your bust radius. The bust radius is just basically the circle that goes around the bust point area. To determine your bust radius, you take the difference between your bust point to your under bust. Now what I have is 3.5. So I'm going to mark 3.5 all around from my bust point. I'll be measuring 3.5 just as you see me doing like so. I'll take 3.5 all around it. Then after marking the points all around the bust point area, I'll use my curve driller to connect the lines together. So an easy way to draw your bust radius, you can make use of a drawing compass and you insert your pen into it. You put the pin on the nipple point and then you extend your pen to the under bust. Then from there you connect all the points that you've marked all around the bust area to achieve your bust radius. So I'll go ahead to do that. So this is the circle after I finish drawing it. So the next thing to do now is to place my body measurements. Now I've already gone ahead to measure my bust measurement, quarter of my bust measurement. So I'll go over to my half length and then take quarter of my waist measurements. So the quarter of my waist measurement is 7.25, and then I'll take out that dart of 1 inch and replace it. Then on my full length, I'll be taking my hip measurements divided by 4. Now after doing that, I'll be connecting the lines together. Now you will not be replacing the dart at the hip length area. So I'll go ahead to connect all the bust measurements together. Now I'm not adding a sewing allowance to this part. You can go ahead to add a sewing allowance if you prefer. Then at the bust point area, I'll come down by 2 inch from the bust point at the side, 2 inches, which is going to serve as my bust dart. Now to determine your bust dart, you'll be taking your front half length measurement and your back half length measurement. Now the difference between your front and back half length measurement is what is going to be your bust dart. Now the difference between mine is 2 inches. So I'll go ahead to draft out my neck depth of 4 inches and then I'll connect that to my neck width with my curve driller. So this is all for the front part, and now this is basically how to draft out your full scale basic bodice pattern for your corsets or your bustiers. So now let's go over to the back. So then before I go over to draft out my back pattern, I'll show you how I cut my pattern. I don't just cut it the way I have drafted it. I'll extend the side of the body measurement at the bust line area by 3 inches, and then I'll just cut it straight from the full length to the end of the pattern. And then after doing that, I'll just cut it out like so, because later on I can use the pattern to draft out any other stuff, and instead of adding extra pieces to get my sewing allowance, I'll get my sewing allowance from this piece. So I hope you understand what I mean. So this is how I cut out my pattern. Okay, so for this back pattern, I'll go ahead to start by creating a starting line, which is my shoulder line. So then from that line, then I'll be taking all of my measurements. So I'll take 2 inches for my zipper allowance. Now this is optional. When drafting your corset, you can remove the zipper and then use your lacing back, but I'll just go ahead to add a zipper allowance when drafting this basic back pattern. So I'll take the half length for this back pattern, which is 17 inches. So I'll go ahead to mark that all through to the end of the pattern. So next I'll measure what I have on my front pattern as the difference between my half length to my full length, which is 5 inches. So I'll mark that 5 inches after the half length of the back, which is basically what I have. left. So then I will take my zipper allowance straight to the end of the pattern. So then the next thing I'm going to do is take half of my shoulder line, and then I'll be taking that measurement from the zipper allowance line. So after the zipper allowance line, I'll take half of my shoulder measurement. Then I'll come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slant, and then I'll mark my neck width, which is 3 inches. Note that all of the measurements we're taking from is after the zipper allowance line. So I'll go ahead to connect my shoulder slope or shoulder slant. And then from the shoulder slant, I'll take my arm side length. Remember how I showed you how to take your arm side length, whereby you divide your bust into 6 and then add 1.5 inch. So then I'll mark my arm side, and then from that point of my arm side, I'll take half of my shoulder line as well. Then I'll connect to get a perfect arm side length. Then after I'll finish connecting the line, now that arm side line is going to be my chest line. So after I'm done connecting the line, I'll go ahead to label all the lines so you'll not be confused. So the upper part is my shoulder line, the arm side line is going to be my chest line, and then there is my half length and full length, and also my zipper allowance. So then on my chest line area, I'll divide my nipple to nipple point into 2, which gives me 3.75. So I'll take that point from my chest line to my half length and down to my full length. Note that I am taking the lines from after my zipper allowance line. So I'll connect to form a straight line. Then after that, we're going to be removing our darts. So I'll take half and half inch on both sides of that line at my half length, and then I'll do the same thing for my full length. Then I'll connect the 2 points together. So after connecting together, I'll use my ruler to connect from one dart leg to the chest line in a slant manner. After drafting the darts for the back, I'll go ahead to draft the armhole curve. So to do that is just basically to divide the arm side length into 2, and then from that point I'll come in by half an inch. Then after marking that point there, on my chest line, I'll take quarter of my bust measurement, which is 9.5. And then after marking that point, I'll be using my arm curve ruler to connect the 3 points together. So I'm just going to mark my neck depth. I'll be using 1.5 inch, but you can go ahead to use just 1 inch. Then I'll use my curved ruler to connect to my zipper allowance, then to my neck width. So the next thing I'm going to do is to put in all my body measurements. I've already gone ahead to put my bust measurement on my chest line. Then on my half length, I'll take quarter of my waist measurement. Then replace that's 1 inch, that's allowance I took. Then on the full length, I'll be taking my hip measurement, quarter of my hip measurement. Note that all of the measurements, I took them from after the zipper allowance line. So I'll go ahead to connect all the lines together. So I'm going to leave the back pattern like so. I've already added my 3 inches for my sewing allowance or whatever I want to do at the back. So this is for the front pattern and then the back pattern. So this is how you draft your full scale basic bodice pattern for your corset or bustiers and so on. So thank you guys for watching. If you find this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you're yet to subscribe. Also, if you have a request on any kind of video you want to see on the channel, please do well to drop it on the comment section and I will give you a reply.